All right, so let's go over some of the head coaches that are on the hot seat for college football. And this one, I've got four coaches who I believe, are firmly on the hot seat. One of them is probably obvious. You've probably heard of it a lot by now. But we're just going to go through these. We'll start at number four. Number four, I do have Mike Norvell at Florida State. Mike Norvell, of course, was very successful at Memphis before going to Florida State after Florida State fired Willie Taggart. I think Mike Norvell is the least likely to get fired because I believe Florida State's going to give him enough time to build his program, use the transfer portal, get recruiting. I mean, they had a 4-star commit like a few days ago, and I saw on a defensive player. So I do believe the things are slowly turning for Florida State. I think Mike Norvell's team might be the surprise team in the ACC. I think they will surprise some people. I think they are going to definitely make a bowl game for sure. I believe their schedule works out perfectly where they can at least make it to a bowl game. I think Norvell is totally the safest out of all of these four. Now, number three is definitely where he is a little more hotter, is Nebraska's Scott Frost. This one's similar to Norvell, though I don't feel as confident. Frost has been here for several years and have not had a winning season. I believe this is the worst stretch for Nebraska football that I can at least remember. Them not going to a bowl game the last couple of seasons, I think, has been very disappointing and very alarming. But I do believe that if he's going to turn around, it's going to be this year, and I think they have the right team to do it. And number two is Herm Edwards. Not necessarily on the field problems. I think on the field, Arizona State reasonably has been pretty good with Herm Edwards. They had some 8-win season, I know. They had that shortened 2020 season, but that's an outlier. We'll just throw that away. But outside of that, they went to a bowl game every single season except for one under Herm, and they've really done well recruiting. Though the big problem is the off the field problems. There's unfortunately, I'm not going to go into that stuff. If you want to do your own research on that, go right ahead. I'm not going to go into that here. But just the NCAA investigation, I just don't see an avenue where he can survive this. Again, you can do more research into it. I'm not going to explain that. I'm not an expert in that type of stuff. But just because of the off-the-field problems, I do believe Herm Edwards is definitely on the hot seat. And then, by far the hottest of the hot seats is Auburn's Bryan Harsin. Without a doubt, he could get fired at any moment this season. I think if Auburn, if they don't make it to a bowl game or at least get the 7 wins, I think he's out. I think it's very clear the boosters and folks in the administration don't like him. They don't want him. They didn't want him as the head coach to begin with. They very much wanted Kevin Steele. I think Bryan Harsin's in a lose-lose situation here. I don't really see an avenue where he can survive this. Unless Auburn has a magical season, they go 9 or 10 wins. I had them in my SEC predictions going 3-9. If that happens, I think Bryan Harsin's going to get fired pretty early if they don't win a single game in the first couple weeks. I believe he's out. I just don't. Auburn is such a very strange place that a lot of people would look at Bryan Harsin and be like, well, Bryan Harsin at Oregon or at, Washington State would probably be given at least 3 years regardless of what the record is. But unfortunately at Auburn, they believe they are better than what they should be, and they don't believe that 6-7 or 7-6 is a reasonable standard, and they believe if they can do better. And just the fact that the hire of Bryan Harsin was very strange to begin with, and with all the off-the-field problems, and their recruiting has not been very good. They've lost a lot of players in the transfer portal, and again, in some value that it's not really a big deal, but I guess for the Auburn folks, they saw that as a big problem, even though that's like most college football teams in the modern era, where you're with a new head coach, you're going to lose a lot of players, so that's not really surprising. But the folks at Auburn, the boosters, the powers, and the folks in charge, they don't like Bryan Harsin. They definitely don't like him. They wanted him fired back in February. They couldn't find a reason to fire him. And I think he's very lucky to still have a job, and I think he's very lucky to even be the coach in week 1. So realistically, out of all of these, I think clearly Bryan Harsin is probably going to be fired more than likely by the middle of the season, I believe. I think Auburn by the end of the season will have an interim coach, and I don't believe they'll be very good. I think they're definitely staring down their worst season I think they've had in 10 years, ironically.